Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Pop Writer's Toolkit. Today, we are going to talk about Baggage by Ember. Baggage is one of my favorite songs to date. Its structure is the basic pop structure: intro verse, pre-chorus, chorus, interlude verse, pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, chorus, outro/chorus. If you are looking for a masterful implementation of the basic pop structure, silence to create hits, and intersectional references, Baggage is not a bad place to start. Although I could talk about any of these features of the song in great length, today we are going to focus on Baggage's use of intersectional references, in this case with two song-spanning motifs. These motifs appear in seemingly unrelated sections of the song. The first appears in the intro and the pre-choruses. The second appears in the verses, the pre-choruses, and is then overtly referenced in the choruses. You can see how the motifs literally weave the song together. Part of the genius of this song is in its ability to use all or parts of these motifs to balance anticipation and gratification within the song. Part of the way this is done is through the creation of so-called aha moments. The first motif is a good example of this. This motif is a series of 8 synthesizer notes and is the first thing we hear in the song. It sounds like this. As we noted, the next time the motif is heard, it is heard in the first pre-chorus. But in this section, only the first 4 notes of the melody are played. It sounds like this. Why it takes so long for you to come around? You should keep me up when you're feeling down. This relates to an old theater adage: if there's a gun on the set in Act 1, it had better be fired in Act 2. If you are watching the play and you noticed the seemingly insignificant gun in Act 1, you are going to instantly feel a sense of gratification when your attention is rewarded by its getting shot in Act 2. Similarly, if you remember the introduction and you hear it in the pre-chorus, you are going to get a boost of dopamine from having figured out the reference. It is not a coincidence that the sections using this motif are separated by the verse. This gives the listener time to pay attention to new things. If the motif was played in the verse as well, there would be no sense of figuring the song out. You would just be listening to a melody getting played over and over. Instead, hearing the motif in the pre-chorus rewards the listener savvy enough to recognize the reference. But it is noteworthy that the motif is never fully played in the first pre-chorus. Although you are rewarded for having recognized it, you are not rewarded with the full motif. This is what makes the second pre-chorus interesting. By the second pre-chorus, you are relatively far away from the first pre-chorus, and you are very far away from the introduction. When you do hear the first 4 notes of the motif again, it does not give you the same aha moment. It feels more like a puzzle you have already figured out. But it does remind you that the motif exists, and it reminds you that you haven't heard it in full yet. This serves to create anticipation. So at the pinnacle of the pre-chorus, when the full motif is played, it creates a sort of climactic effect. You get a renewed aha moment for recognizing the full introduction melody, and you resolve the sense of anticipation created by all of those partial plays of the motif. It sounds like this. Somehow, why it takes so long for you to come around? You should keep me up when you're feeling down. Using the theater analogy, pre-chorus 1 is like a character making an ominous remark about the gun. Pre-chorus 2 is the gun getting waved around and eventually, at a climactic moment, shot. The second motif is used similarly masterfully but in a slightly different way. In this case, the motif takes the form of a bass line in the verse and the pre-chorus. In the context of the first verse, the bass line sounds like this. My hands, got my hands in my heart. I'm in love with the night, but I'm scared of the dark. Got lost in my words, but I'm playing the part. Hypocritical thoughts, hypothetical lies. Upon moving to the first chorus, the bass line changes from this riff to a more typical bass pattern focused on accentuating the groove. This change, along with doubled vocals and added instruments, increases the intensity of the first chorus when compared to the prior sections, already allowing the chorus to be that high point of the song you look forward to. But then, halfway through the chorus, a guitar is added. a clear reference to the bass riff in the verse and the pre-chorus. Waiting to make the reference until the second half of the chorus is a strategic choice, part of that masterful use of gratification I was talking about. Having just come off of the high of recognizing the introduction melody in the pre-chorus, the song lets you think that is all it has. Then, when you are least expecting it, halfway through the first chorus, the song hits you with another reference to something completely different. This produces an aha effect that is compounded by the one we just experienced with the first motif. It makes the song feel immaculately woven together, like a masterfully written story. This first chorus sounds like this. In subsequent choruses, the song doesn't really have to hide the ball anymore. The motif is allowed to play in both halves of the chorus, and the chorus's impact is increased in the second half of subsequent choruses in different ways.